Hi, Casilya. I am so excited to have you on our podcast today. You have been doing such awesome things, and I knew immediately when I saw your article that I had to have you on the show as a guest. You're just doing so many things that I think are so inspiring and encouraging to women. And so I'm glad that you've been able to come on and join me. And I want to give you an opportunity just to introduce yourself to those who may not know who you are.
Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on Tisha Talks. It's amazing, again, how technology and my simple blog post was able to connect me with so many people. So thank you. But I am Casilya Smith, formerly or artistically known as Seal, shall I say. Most people since high school were not able to pronounce my name correctly, so they just chopped it, shortened it, and I went with it. So Seal is my artistic name. I am an author. I am also an educator. I've taught seventh grade ELA for the past 4 years, going on 5 years. And I'm a native Houstonian. I'm a good old Southern gal who loves to focus as well on just empowering people, empowering women, empowering youth. And so this was so fitting that is all what your podcast is about. So glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So I'm sure everyone is probably wondering what blog and article is she talking about?
Yes.
It was just so I was telling you earlier, I was sitting in the urgent care with my husband, and my girlfriend had posted this article about someone who had left teaching and really began to pursue writing. And as I began to read the article, it was so well put together. I felt like,
Thank
oh
you.
my gosh, she is capturing like what passion is and how to step
Oh my.
out in faith. And so can you share with us a little bit more about that process and what that article is about?
Yes. Okay. So, I believe I wrote that blog back in February, maybe early February, if I'm not mistaken. I've been writing pretty much since high school. But my blog, my website is just a moment of release for me. And so that night, I had left my current teaching position in December. And that February night, I just was like, it's time to get it out, to just release everything that I felt like I had been holding in regards to teaching and education for 4 years. So I sat down in my computer and I typed that now infamous title, I quit because I deserve better. And I just started to release. And I felt like so connected to so many people that had been reaching out. It was like 400K plus views. So many emails and comments coming through, but even people in different professions just saying, man, I just wish, I'm scared, but I just, how did you get that push, that faith to just like say, hey, I quit. Like, I want to be happy. I want my peace. So yeah, I just sat down and just started release, honestly. And it went, I guess, you can say viral?
Yeah. So what was that turning point for you? What was that thing that happened that was just like, I cannot do this anymore?
Naturally, the type of person I am, and as cliche as it might sound, like I really want to see everyone do well. Like when we say, oh, we fall in love with potential, that's me. Like I want people to reach their maximum potential. Like I'm rooting for everybody, here, far, whatever the case may be. And with teaching, I felt like after I worked in corporate for a while, that it would be fulfilling in that sense, that I would be able to go in and I could push people and help people to reach that maximum potential and, encourage them like, hey, I have circumstances too, but you can keep going. Look at me. And so my first year, I was kind of just on that honeymoon phase. So I never really just observed everything that was going on. But the longer I spent in teaching, I just started feeling like, am I really helping these people, or am I just playing a puppet in a system that is disservicing them? And my conscience just would like beat me up because I'm just looking at what's being done, the systems that are in place in public education. I'm like, short term, it makes the districts look good, but long term, these children are going to suffer. I was a high achiever in school. I could pretty much go in probably any field that I wanted to be in, but that's not the case for everybody. And if it was challenging for me to make it with my achievements, I can't imagine, what these children are going to face. So my conscience honestly just kept just beating me up like, I can't do this. Like, I feel like I'm a part of a lie. I feel like I'm a part of just the disservice of public education. And so I prayed about it. I talked to my pastor. He was like, hey, you've been on my mind heavy. He was like, you're talented. God, is pleased with you. Like, you've been striving, like, follow your heart, make sure you have a plan in place, but go for it. Like, God's going to keep you. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. And I walked into my principal's office and I was at peace, and he was even supportive. I thought I was going to receive like, what? You can't leave in the middle of the school year. Like, what do we? He was so, just the type of person I am. He said he was felt so respected by my decision to just take care of myself and to pursue my passion. He was like, let me know if there's anything you need, and I got you. I was just like, quitting was that easy? So that's just how it happened. Mm-hmm.
I definitely can relate because I left my 9 to 5 a little over a year ago.
Uh-huh.
And I definitely was at a place where I was just like, there has to be more to what I'm called to do, right? And I'm like, and I really want to have been impactful. I want to have, have been able to service people in the ways in which I've been created to do. And I just felt so stagnant and stuck where I was. And it was just like, I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I really couldn't do it anymore. But like you, people begin to like come on board with it as I begin to express it more and talk about it more. So I know you mentioned having a plan B. What was that kind of like? Because I know for me, my plan B was teacher talks. Like, that has to work. There was no
Uh-huh.
like B, C, and D. But I'm curious, how was that for you?
So right now I'm actually reading interventionist, so I still am somewhat in the realm of education, but I'm not specifically in the classroom or the position or environment that I was in. So I'm still using my gifts to help the youth somewhat. But my plan B, honestly, I felt like I got this job. What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work out, then I'll just apply for another one. So I was like, I'm already writing. I had already self-published 2 books. I do photography as well. I teach dance, fitness classes. It was so many other things. And then I was teaching online, teaching English online as well to supplement. So I'm like, there were so many avenues. I was just like, what's the worst that can happen? You flourish, you have peace, you're like, what, you have more time with your family. Like, that was my plan B. I had other avenues in place, just things that I naturally am gifted at. And, I was just like, I'm going to fully pursue what's on my heart. And if by chance this does not work out, then I can go apply to another school, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to.
That's exactly how I felt. I'm like, I have this bachelor's, I have this master's. If I absolutely have to get another job, I can do that.
And I think
So
not a lot of people have that mindset, though. I
yeah,
think that sometimes people feel, like you said, stuck, and they're just so comfortable. Like, I have bills, I have children. We all have bills, we all have children. But you also want to be around for your children and be your best self and show them that you don't have to stay anchored in one place. You can go out and explore different avenues. And if it comes full circle and you end up back where you left, then okay. But how do you know what else is out there unless you take the chance and step out on faith? So
definitely, definitely. So let's talk about your passion for writing.
oh yes.
How did that come about?
Actually, Tisha, so I didn't even know. I'm only 30, but my memory is just, whew. I didn't even know that back in middle school, I was really gifted at writing. Apparently, I actually found an old yearbook. My mom passed away last year, and so she kept so many things. So I was able to find this middle school yearbook. Open to the cover, and my 7th grade English teacher, Miss Washington, wrote on there that she wants me to dedicate my first book to her. Like, I'm such a gifted writer. And then I'm like, huh? I was a gifted writer back then. Who knew? I just didn't remember that about me. So, but I mean, I've always started from my earliest recollection. I was writing in high school. So my senior year of high school, I had completed everything I needed to complete. So I just told them to give me a random elective, and they put me in a journalism class. And so they started me off writing in the sports section, and I'm just like, I like watching sports, but I don't know how to write about sports. I can't even dribble a ball. Like, what are y'all doing? Can I get another section? So they put me over editorials where I could write about just, whatever opinions that I had. And so what I would do is the same thing that I do now. I would just release. I would write about things such as like bullying or low self-esteem, or just not, the old, how we say in our community, what happens in the house stays in the house, things like this nature, just things that I felt like I couldn't talk about out loud, but I can at least write about it. And I got so much great rapport from it. My teachers, the students, and they were just like, don't ever stop doing this. And so I've been writing since then, but didn't really get the courage to publicly start publishing my things until I believe 2017. So.
Wow. I published, I think, well, it's not a similar story, but I published my first book in 2017, I think, as well.
Oh,
But
wow.
I had no idea that it started out as like a venting type situation. I was journaling and I was just telling my story. I had been through so much. And 10 years later, I was like, you know what? As I'm like exploring what is a part of my purpose, I'm like, what can I do with this information? How can it be helpful to someone else? And then I say, you know what? Instead of just venting, take out the pieces of the things that you've learned so that other people can learn from them. And then it just morphed into
Exactly.
this book. But I don't consider myself a writer, though.
Really? There's a writer, a little bit of a writer in everybody, but sometimes, like you said, it comes naturally to some people, and others may have to work a little harder at it. But I think everyone has a story. Everyone should at least write one book in their lifetime. I
Mm-hmm.
believe everybody has one book inside of them somewhere. So congrats on your book.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So tell me a little bit about your latest book, Dr. King, Dear King,
Oh.
right?
Dear King, Dear King, Dear King. So, it's a children's book. And honestly, I never thought that I would write children's books, because I just felt like my misconception of children's books would be like the ABC 1, 2, 3 Dr. Seussish. No shame, with Dr. Seuss, but I didn't know that you could really go there in children's literature. So honestly, this is what social media does. It inspires people. So one of my good college friends posted a comment on Facebook that was so, I guess, controversial. He was saying that Black women need to do a better job of supporting Black men. And all of the Black women, whew, they were like, oh, they came from like, oh man, it got bad really quickly. And my initial thought was like, like, what do you mean? But at the same time, I had to take a step back and look at how the responses were. It's not that I disagree that Black women should empower and support and encourage Black men, but it goes both ways. So I was like, it would be great if Black people could have better communication with each other. Black people can learn how to disagree in a healthy way. Black people can both honor one another, Black men, Black women. But then I thought about it, I'm like, it starts early. Like Black men aren't taught to leave their families. I mean, they're not born, just, hey, I'm going to leave my family, or, hey, I'm going to, do this. And Black women, the same thing. But I'm like, someone taught them to behave and dishonor themselves. So I was like, what better way for me to, I guess, express myself is to start at a children's age. This is when they're getting programmed to grow and to become who they're going to be in life. So I was like, let me go for it. And literally that next day, I got home from church and the first line came to me. I'm like, Dear King. And I literally typed the story in my phone, and that was it. It was done. Just like that.
Well, I have ordered my book.
Oh, yay!
I have ordered my book because I have a little one. He's 9.
Oh,
And
yeah.
when I was reading what it was about and even the perspective. So can you talk a little bit about the perspective, right? Because it's coming from a little girl
Mm-hmm.
What can you
So
talk
most
to me
people
about
think,
that?
well, is it for boys or is it for girls? It's actually for both. But I wrote it from the perspective of a Black girl, and she already has accepted and acknowledged. She stands confidently in her, in her Blackness and who she is and her purpose. So the Black boy in the story is the opposite. He's busy trying to fit in. He thinks that the only way that he can be successful is what people say. You have to be an athlete. You have to be this way. You can't be different. You need to stay in this box. Whole time he's going through self-doubt, and she writes an open letter to him, basically pouring just affirmations into him to where he finally realized, like, hey, I'm a king. I need to hold my head up high. I have this. Yes, it may be challenging. Yes, I might have some hardships, but at the same time, I'm not going to give up. And so I wanted that Facebook conversation that I was a part of to show this Black girl is she's honoring and encouraging her Black brother. Like, this guy, she sees him down and out, self-doubt, like hating himself because he's Black and doesn't know his gifts and talents, but she's to uplift him. So I wanted it to come from a girl instead of it just coming from a mother to son or a homeboy to friend, but a Black queen honoring a Black king. So yeah, that's how the story came about.
I think that is so cool. I try to have conversations that I try to provide a space for conversations that facilitate growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that, like what you were mentioning, is how do we handle conflict? How do we have relationships? How do we support each other and not be in competition? How do we
Yes.
collaborate? How do we identify each other's giftings, and to even start at a young age instilling that in our kids is so key. That is so key. So I'm looking
Absolutely.
forward to getting my book.
Yes, and the special part about everything that I write, I always try, because I'm a writer and I love when other people write and release. So I included in that second part of Dear King, in the back section, there's an affirmation journal and reflection questions that children can actually work through and just, find that love and purpose within themselves. So once they have the story, now that they can go and create their own, doodle, write, explore in that back section of the book. So you'll enjoy it. I'm sure your family will love it, and you definitely have to keep me posted on its arrival. So
So, can you share with us, as a fellow author, and I know there some people listening to this may be inspired and encouraged to write too. How was that releasing your first book? Like, how did you know where to go, who to be, publish it? Was it self-published? How was that journey for you?
So I do a lot of research just naturally. I spend too long in the grocery stores. I have to look at the reviews, the nutrient value, everything. So I literally just wait or research the pros and cons of going through a traditional publisher route or self-publishing. And ultimately I just decided to self-publish because I wanted to push myself to do it. I wanted to be able to say, hey, I created this. This is my baby. Can't anyone change it? Can't anyone say, hey, you might want to tone it down on your Blackness? No, this is my baby and I wanted to produce it. So there's a lot of resources out there. I can just name a few. Lulu, Book Baby, blurb.com. Amazon has a great self-publishing KDP Select program as well. So I just researched. I researched what I needed to do as far as self-publishing. And again, I already do photography. I'm good with like graphics and creating stuff. So I was able to put my book together by myself. And again, it takes a few hours, but I just believe, like, you know, I just self-taught. But yeah, it was challenging, a lot of late nights and early mornings. But yeah, I just researched, and I had a vision, and I wasn't going to stop until it was done. So
Wow. So you did the illustrations on the book too?
illustrations, no. I this wonderful, amazing young lady, Jasmine Mills. She did the illustrations for me, but she's very, very thorough. I'm actually going to use her for Dear Queen, which is the follow-up to Dear King. And basically, I just told her, I told her exactly how I wanted the characters to look, what I wanted them to wear, the emotions, what I wanted them to be doing, and she brought it to life for
Yeah.
me. So I don't want that to discourage people. A lot of people say, well, I can't draw, but there's people that do that. Just
Mhm.
focus on creating a story and the vision, and someone can bring that to life for you. So yeah.
So that's awesome. I think that that's awesome. I think a lot of times people get discouraged by all the work that they think that they have to do, when actually it really is taking that first step, and then just take the second step, and then the third
Hmm.
step, and then eventually you'll get to the finish line. Um,
Exactly.
it definitely is a marathon. It's a marathon instead of, um, what is the other word? It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So
Exactly. Yes.
how has your book tour been? So I know you've been touring the book. Well, I know in the midst of everything that's going on
Uh-huh.
now, but prior to that, how was the book tour?
Yeah, so I started off having, of course, a book signing here in Houston, my hometown, where we had open dialogue. I had a motivational speaker, Robert Harper. He's amazing as well. I've been to Louisiana a few times as well, and Atlanta, um, and Cali has been postponed, unfortunately. But when we pick back up, I'll pick back up with that as well. But honestly, it's been received with open arms. Like everyone who meets me and just hears my story and then just sees Dear King and reads the story, it's just like it opens up for conversation, such dialogue that needs to happen anyways. And I don't think that parents realize, a lot of parents realize how important it is to just speak to your child, like get to know them, like talk to them, see what's going on, like encourage them to find their own way and not the way that we think, is one solid, box or right way to do things. So it's been received so well. My book is currently on the BK Publishing book tour. She's a Black publisher, and she's been traveling around the country to different elementary schools. So that'll pick back up soon, and that sold out at its first stop. So I have to replenish that order, but it's been great. It's been great.
Wow, congratulations,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
So we're going to take a little shift because I was on social media this week and I saw that you started a challenge.
Hmm.
And it's a 7-day challenge, right? To get closer
7.
to God. I don't know if I'm saying it
Yes.
right, but can you share
Yes,
with us a
yes.
little bit about that?
So actually, one of my friends, really close friends, so we're mutual friends. Her name is Ebony. She had been posting recently, just about getting closer to God. She's been promoting just her story and her journey so far. And she's the one who actually created the challenge. So it's a 7-day getting closer to God challenge. And we focus on a different topic every day. The first day was forgiveness, and we talked about love, and today's gratitude. And she gives us a scripture to focus on for that day as well. And so I just decided, I was like, what better way to do this challenge than to just record videos and have, just open, vulnerable conversation with my followers. So that's what I decided to do, and that's been well received as well. Hopefully everybody's been enjoying them. It takes a lot to be transparent, but I think it's so necessary just to give people hope when they know that they're not the only ones that's trying to strive and endure and overcome. We're all on our individual journey. So yeah, that's what I decided to do, is to post videos of me completing that challenge.
Well, let me tell you, I thought that it was so good. It was definitely transparent. I love what you were talking about in terms of forgiveness. And I know you touched on just or a lot of different things that have happened. And as I was listening, I said, these things, they shape us and they also help cultivate us as to become the individuals that we are. And so
Hmm.
as I was listening to you talk about forgiveness and the different situations that you found yourself in, um, I began to wonder, I'm like, how has these things that you've experienced, how have they shaped who you are today?
Oh yeah, I mean, everything, like you said, Tisha, it will build you if you let it, and it will break you if you let it. That's the way that I look at it. And so I've had those times where I'm just like, I can't take anymore. Like it seemed like something was happening, like every angle. I was just like taking hits from every angle of life. But ultimately, God intentionally puts people in your life to give you just that little bit of push, that little bit of hope to like just keep going, like it's going to get better. The storms don't always last forever. Like just keep going. And, you know, I've shifted my mindset over the last few years. I'm just like, it's not a why me mentality anymore. Life happens to everybody. You know, who am I to be exempt from that? You know, so I've allowed, you know, some things that I talked about on that forgiveness video is losing my mom. And I told myself that I wasn't going to be angry with God about it. I told myself that I wasn't going to question it. But I can't lie to myself and say that I was completely at peace with the situation, because I'm like, well, you were sick, but why didn't you tell me? Was there something I could have done? You know, so even forgiving that guilt that I had and forgiving that resentment towards the situation, everything builds you. Again, it's just about mindset. It's about how are you going to learn from this situation? My mom's life was a book of lessons for me. It gave me things of what I should do more of, what I should take, what I should not take for granted. All of those things make me more of who I am, you know? So I just think that everyone has to retrain the way that they think about circumstances and situations and challenges.
Yeah, it is definitely so powerful when you have that mindset shift. Um, I was talking to someone the other day and I was telling them that I really think that life situations serve at least three purposes. And one is to either bless you, you know, something will happen, it'll bring forth opportunity and bless you. Another is to teach you, and it's a growing moment where it stretches you. And then the other one is to bless you, to teach you, and to show and reveal something to you, either about
Absolutely.
yourself or about someone else. And so, what are we going to do with what these situations are bringing to us? And how are we going to
Absolutely.
use that, you know, in our lives? And I think for me, and I'm sure for you too, when you begin to make that mindset shift, it puts you in such a place of power,
Yep.
understanding that you have just so much more control over your life, over the way you live it, I should say, you know, and not so much the circumstances. So I'll say I was really blessed and encouraged to see you share that, because I know a lot of people who, like you said, just take it and they allow it to weigh on them and to start sending them down this hole that just gets
Hmm.
deeper and deeper. I've had a lot of friends who have gone really, really deep into whether it be depression or whatever it is, because of life. And life
Yeah.
is difficult, you know, it really is. But God, right?
Absolutely. And I think that it all goes back to people. We have to start being honest with ourselves before we can start even being honest with anyone else. Like, it's okay to have a day where you're not okay. Like, it's okay to not just be like, oh, you know, that automatic response, I'm good, I'm fine, how are you? Like, it's okay to turn it off, because I think we're just so trained to put on that mask and just get it done. Like, sometimes we have to stop and say, hey, I'm not okay with this situation. This hurt me. This affected me. Like, I need help. Like, this is what's going on. And I think when we can start being honest with ourselves, we can release some of that weight. And like you said, take control of our mindset and how we react and appreciate situations. Because I always say, even in the darkest of situations that I've been through, it's always revealed something beautiful, whether about life or about something that I needed to know about myself. And I didn't know I was a strong person until all of these things start happening. And I'm like, oh, I'm still standing. So yeah, it's all about that power and being transparent and honest with yourself about your situation and your feelings, I believe.
That is so good. That is so good. I'll be waiting for the book that's going to come out about
Yes. You're,
forgiveness.
yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I actually have a see, this was a surprise, but I might as well, because it's anyways, but I created a reflection and planning journal. It's going to be released in a few weeks, and it is broken up into three sections of healing, dealing, and elevating. And so that healing and dealing part, whew, it will be a release. So I'll keep you updated with that as well.
And I know we're going to switch switch topics in a minute, but I love the fact that you're so forthcoming with the fact that these things that we're talking about are not easy. Like, they're not easy, but they're necessary. If you want to walk in peace, if you want to be a whole individual, it's life is about evolving and growing and stretching, and sometimes taking us out of our, not sometimes, most of the times, taking us outside of our comfort spaces
Absolutely.
so we can fully blossom, right? So
Yes.
I love that. I love that. But we're going to shift gears because I do want a lot of the people that listen to my podcast, they're looking to, align the things that they're passionate about, the things that they love to do with some type of purpose or some type of business. So I wanted to talk about what have been some of your greatest challenges as you've started like embarking in this space.
I will say two two things specifically. One of my first greatest challenges was just my own self-doubt. I had to get out of my head and stop comparing myself to other people's journey, like, hey, they seem some further along, or they were only 18 when they popped, why am I 30 and it hasn't hit. I had to get out of my own mind of what could go wrong. So once I got out of that negative or pessimistic headspace, because I'm the biggest cheerleader for everyone else, but when it came to myself, it was like, can you do this? Like, you can't do this. Like, can you really do this? So I had to stop that. And then number two was the support. I actually spoke about this a few years ago. When we're starting out, we also have to take the personal emotion out of whatever we're pursuing. What I mean by that is people think that it's going to be, oh, I'm good, I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of family, like they're going to support. Your friends and family are not always your fans. Not saying that they don't always support you, but they're not, sometimes they'll be the ones that's scrolling by, or they may not be, so happy to repost, reshare, or to purchase. So you can't rely just on your inner circle for support. You have to be ready to get outside of your comfort zone, connect with new people, put yourself out there and build those relationships. So that was a learning experience, understanding that, hey, yeah, I have all these friends and followers on Facebook, but that does not mean every single one is going to be my street team. Like, it's going to be a little bit more challenging than that. But yeah, those are my two things: self-doubt and building those relationships in my true support systems as well.
So what did it look like to build a support system outside of your family and friends? Because I think that is one of the biggest shocks that people have. It's like, are you not liking my posts? And are you guys not supporting me? And moving past that. But then it's like, okay, now what? Like, how do I go beyond, my little core?
Exactly. So again, believe it or not, I do not like talking in front of people. I know I'm a teacher. I know I do all of these things, but I get so anxious. But the thing is, again, I had to step outside of my comfort zone. You have to go along with the way of the world. Okay. It's no longer going to be door to door knocking or even just sending emails. You have to, social media is where it's at. So if you plan on doing any type of business or pursuing anything from a podcast to a graphic design business, you have to get on social media. You have to get comfortable with social media. And the way that I was able to start building those relationships was by doing exactly what I'm doing now, being transparent, showing people that all of my posts is not just about business, support me, support me, support me, but actually showing that I'm a true person. I'm hopefully a likable person too. So, but you have to be ready to put yourself out there, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, but that's how you build. And again, I'm talking to you from states away. Without social media or technology or us embracing that, would this even be possible? So yeah.
I completely agree with you. I even now I'm on my 84th podcast or something, and even now, every time I'm getting ready to invite a guest, it's like weeks before I actually send out the email, or it's like, I still have people that I'm still supposed to confirm with because it's
Yes,
still like a
that's a
challenge.
good problem to have, though.
It is. It is. But I wanted to share that because I think sometimes people think, okay, I did it, I've mastered it. No, like with every new opportunity and new step requires new things, and you still have to continue to put yourself in that space. And so I think that
Exactly.
that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. So tell us, as we begin to wrap up, tell us what is next for you. I know you mentioned the reflection journal.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm just in this space. And again, I do take, what's going on in the world right now very seriously, practicing social distancing and everything. But I've also been embracing this time in just creating. I think that if anybody, everyone who makes it out or beyond this coronavirus pandemic, like you should have projects and be ready to produce because we have so much time to do so. There's no excuse, no more excuses. So I'm going to continue to write. I have the reflection and planning journal coming out in just a few weeks. It's called From the Concrete because I based it on that Tupac poem, A Rose That Grew from a Concrete. And I was like, what better way to heal, deal, and elevate than to talk about how you can still blossom and bloom regardless of your circumstances. So that will be out soon. Dear Queen will also be out once the world resumes. And I'm just going to keep writing, keep speaking, keep being transparent, and hopefully keep encouraging other people to write their story and to hopefully appreciate mine as well in the meantime.
I definitely love what you're doing. I love your tenacity and your dedication to it, because it all takes a level of dedication and commitment to just keep going and keep going.
Yes.
And most definitely, this is a time to be creative, to look for different opportunities, to
Mm-hmm.
see the world is shifting, and just making sure that you're shifting the way that God is calling you to shift in this space as well
Exactly.
too.
And a
Um,
schedule too. That's what
yeah,
I've learned too. Too much idle time can be a bad thing. Like you have to, the way that I pursue my passion, Tisha, is I look at my passion and the projects that I want to do, just like my traditional job. Like it's not optional. There's no calling in or calling out. I might have a few sick days, but I have this designated time to work on this project, and that's what I'm going to sit down and do. So if other entrepreneurs are listening, I think that a rigid schedule, will help plan out your week in advance. That always helps me to know which project I'm working on, when I need to make calls, when I need to communicate with people, and that will help. Go at it just like as if this is what's going to pay your bills, because hopefully one day this will be what pays your bills and you can leave that 9 to 5 life alone.
I completely agree. You answered my next question about like what advice would you give?
Oh
And
yeah.
definitely
Hmm.
having a schedule and seeing it as a job, like taking it that seriously. And I think in the midst of this corona, with the kids being home and the schedules being changed, you definitely can see that even more, why it's so important to just be
To just be
intentional about what we're doing and what we're pursuing. And
absolutely.
so, Casilya, is there anything that you want to leave us with? Give us your information.
I would say again, just one last message of advice is just make sure that you do tap into whatever your gift may be. It is our job to fulfill our purpose, and you're doing yourself and so many people in the world a disservice when you don't pursue it, because we need what you have to offer. So just make sure that whatever you love to do, do more of it. My Instagram, if you want to follow me, is at Sil, S-I-L, the writer, THEWRITER. All of my social media is under us at Sil the Writer, and my website is www.silthewriter.com. But stay in touch with me, connect with me. I'm very talkative, as you can see. So if you've messaged me, I will message you back. But yeah, it was great just talking to you.
Thank you. It was a great conversation. I am glad that you came on. The insights and things that you shared, I think, are golden. I think it will really help and encourage women and just people in general in their pursuits.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to also point out that on your Instagram page, you have writer, motivator, poet with a twist.
Poet with
Um,
a twist.
Before we go, I know I keep before we go. Before we go, can you tell me a little bit about that poet with a twist?
Yes, so poetry is my first love. Because I don't say I'm sensitive, but I am emotional. Like I can tap into those feelings, and poetry is just my first love. But I feel like the way that I say things, from what I've been told, and the way that I write things are just in a way that it's not conventional. So I always say poet with a twist, because it's not going to be your Edgar Allan Poe, but it's going to be Seal. It's going to be, my heart just in word form. And so yeah, that's what I coined when I was writing out my Instagram bio.
Well, thank you. I want to encourage everyone listening to check you out. Go to your Instagram page. I will definitely say I can get the poet with a twist because I was captured by the blog and the article that I read.
Thank
Very
you.
good usage of words and just really able to see like your heart and your space, and you create a really good image, but not just the image, it attaches our emotions to it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just think it's really good. And I encourage everyone to support. And we look forward to your reflection book that's coming
Thank
out and
you
everything
so
else we
much.
got going on.
Thank you, Tisha.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.